Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures, where humanity always rises. He was once known as the greatest human defender, a warrior born not from normal blood, but from an ancient secret that no one on Earth remembered anymore. But long ago everyone believed that he was the final shield between Earth and destruction. His presence alone made other worlds fear humanity. But after his final war, he suddenly disappeared, and history slowly deleted his name, until he became nothing more than a forgotten shadow, lost like dust under time. No book spoke about him, no monuments carried his face, and no teacher ever spoke his story. But somewhere deep under the earth, below forgotten ruins and dead technology, he still existed, asleep in an unknown chamber where time did not move and his body did not age. Many years passed, wars came and ended, nations rose and fell, but no one ever found that hidden place, because the chamber was created by a power that humans no longer understood. In the far side of the galaxy, powerful alien civilizations had not forgotten him. They called him by a name humans never heard before, a name that made even the strongest alien warriors remain silent: the Eternal Defender. They feared him not because he was evil, but because his power did not follow any known law of the universe, and if he returned, every empire would lose their control. In a large cosmic hall where alien leaders gathered, his symbol, a burning silver circle, flashed for the first time in thousands of years, and that sign was enough to shake the galaxy. Old alien commanders looked at each other with terror, because they knew what that symbol meant. The long-lost defender was still alive. They remembered the ancient battle when he stood alone against an army of beasts from the dark nebula, enemies who could destroy planets with one breath, and yet he defeated them with nothing but his hands, his silent rage, and his burning energy that no weapon could match. But the most shocking truth was that humans on Earth did not know he ever existed. They believed they were weak, small, and alone in the universe, while the galaxy secretly feared the day he woke again. On Earth, life looked normal. People laughed, worked, lived, and died, never knowing a sleeping power was resting beneath their feet. Sometimes earthquakes shook the land without scientific explanation, and sometimes strange humming sounds came from the deep ground at night. But scientists considered it natural, never imagining its real cause. In a small forgotten forest, where no one traveled anymore, old stones were covered in moss, and between those stones a hidden symbol began to glow faintly, almost like a heartbeat. The wind around the forest changed direction even without storms. Animals avoided that place, and birds never landed on those trees, as if nature itself remembered what humans forgot. Meanwhile in space, alien scanners detected energy waves spreading from Earth, energy so strong that they feared it was only the beginning. One alien leader whispered in fear, "If he returns, we cannot stop him." Another replied, "Not only us, no one can." A young alien soldier asked, "Why do humans not know?" And the answer came with silence and heavy eyes, "Because it was humans who locked him away." The young soldier was shocked, because the story he learned was different. He believed humans were blessed by the Defender, not that they turned against him. The truth was darker. After his final victory, some powerful humans feared what he could become, so they betrayed him and forced to sleep, believing the world would be safer without a weapon like him. But in doing so, they erased the only true protector they had. Back on Earth, a boy around 12 years old walked near the same forest, not knowing destiny pulled him there. He heard a soft whisper like a voice coming from nowhere, calling a name he did not understand, a name that did not sound human. He looked around but saw no one, yet the voice repeated, "He will return soon." The boy felt cold air move across his neck, even though the weather was warm, and his heart began to race without reason. He did not know that he had just heard the first call of awakening, a call that no human was supposed to hear. That night, when everyone slept, the underground chamber made its first movement. Dust fell from ancient walls, and the unknown machine began to activate, piece by piece, like an old beast breathing again. His fingers moved slightly, his eyes twitched, but he did not fully wake yet. Something powerful and mysterious was returning, and the world above had no idea that everything was about to change forever, because the forgotten defender was not just sleeping, he was waiting. Far away from Earth, in a silent and hidden corner of space, a massive floating structure known as the Galactic Council Fortress drifted like a dark metallic moon, surrounded by thousands of warships that never slept. And inside that fortress, leaders from 11 advanced alien civilizations gathered in panic because the ancient warning signal from Earth had activated for the first time in thousands of years. The long glass table in the center of the hall displayed a giant hologram of Earth spinning slowly, and beside it, glowing red symbols appeared, symbols known only to the oldest species of the galaxy, the symbols of the Eternal Defender. The hall was filled with tension, and even the breathing of these powerful beings felt heavy, because they knew what the symbols represented. The forgotten protector of Earth was preparing to wake up. The Supreme Council head, an ancient being with crystal-like skin, spoke with a serious voice, saying, "We always feared this day, and now the signal is active." Another alien leader hit his metal fist against the table, shaking the hologram, and shouted, "Why did humans not destroy his chamber? Why did they leave him alive?" A robotic voice responded from the shadows, "Because they feared their own destruction if they tried to kill him. His power cannot be erased, only sealed." A younger council member asked, "Maybe humans have become weak. Maybe they forgot everything. Maybe he will not wake fully." But the Supreme Head looked at him with cold, glowing eyes and said, "If he moves even a little, the universe will remember his true strength." The hall became silent, and everyone remembered the ancient war when he single-handedly stopped the Dark Nebula army, a force that destroyed entire star systems. Yet they could not defeat him, and that battle changed the balance of power forever. He was a human, but not like any human they knew now. He was something beyond their logic, as if the universe itself had created him for war. Now, after thousands of years, strange energy readings showed that his chamber was no longer silent, and the energy wave that escaped Earth had reached deep space, causing ancient satellites, dead probes, and forgotten ships to suddenly react. While the aliens discussed, a huge holographic screen opened, showing a live view of Earth, zooming deeper and deeper into the forest where the hidden chamber rested. They saw the ground vibrate, trees bend slightly, and the glowing underground symbol flash like a heartbeat. Many council leaders stepped back in fear, even though it was only a hologram, because they could feel the energy through their minds. One of the oldest alien elders whispered, "His awakening will not just change Earth, it will change every star, every world, every law of power." Suddenly, an alarm rang inside the council chamber as scanners detected a sudden spike of energy from Earth, and the red glowing symbol turned brighter. "He is moving again," shouted a technician, and panic spread like wildfire. The council instantly activated emergency protocols, sending thousands of stealth surveillance drones toward Earth disguised as space dust, hoping to observe his awakening without being detected. Meanwhile, another alien group suggested launching a secret assassination strike before he became fully awake, but the Supreme Head rejected the idea with a sharp voice. "No weapon made in this galaxy can kill him. If we attack, he will destroy us before we reach orbit." The discussion switched from fear to strategy, some suggesting that they must prepare for defensive war. Others suggested total evacuation, while one secret agent recommended a different plan: contact humans secretly and push them to destroy him from inside Earth. But even that seemed impossible, because ancient records showed that humans once tried, and failed terribly. The Supreme Head finally declared, "We will watch and wait, but the moment he leaves that chamber, we must prepare for a new age." At the same time on Earth, normal people slept peacefully, unaware that their world was being watched by countless eyes from the stars. In the same forest, the young boy who heard the whisper could not sleep. He kept seeing strange dreams of a giant warrior standing alone in darkness with glowing symbols around him, and every time the dream ended, he woke with sweat and shaking hands. He felt like someone was calling him, someone powerful, someone who needed to wake up. As the night continued, the chamber underground trembled slightly, and dust fell from the ceiling as ancient machines restarted slowly, showing that the time of silence was finally ending. The galaxy waited, Earth slept, the Protector stirred, and destiny prepared its next move, and nobody knew whether his return would bring salvation or unstoppable chaos. On Earth, the strange events began slowly, but they grew stronger every day. And people around the world felt something unusual in the air. But no one could explain it clearly, not even scientists, because the signs were not normal natural changes. They were connected to something ancient and powerful hidden deep below the surface. Animals suddenly behaved strangely. Dogs barked at empty corners. Cats stared at the ground like they sensed something alive beneath. Birds changed their flight patterns and refused to fly near certain forest areas. Whales started producing deep low-frequency sounds that echoed across the ocean like a warning message to the entire planet. Scientists tried to explain the strange sound waves and unusual electromagnetic pulses, but every experiment failed because the signals did not match any known natural or man-made source. Meanwhile, the young boy who heard the mysterious whisper became more curious and frightened each day, because every night he dreamed of the same glowing chamber and the same unknown warrior figure. But now the figure was getting clearer, and the dreams felt more like memories or a message being forced into his mind. The villagers near the forest started talking about supernatural rumors and old legends. Some believed that an ancient spirit was waking up, while others thought it was a secret government experiment, and a few even believed that aliens were hiding underground. But no one imagined that the truth was far beyond all their ideas. In the capital city, news reporters started covering the strange vibrations that were recorded across different countries, and they called it the Silent Pulse Mystery. And soon social media was full of videos showing street lights flickering without power issues, water vibrating in glasses without earthquakes, and strange symbols appearing on old stones found near forests and mountains. Governments tried to hide the situation and called it normal ground movement and weather pressure, but the people did not fully believe them because the signs were becoming too strange and too frequent. In the same forest where the chamber was hidden, new strange things started happening. Trees began changing shape, like they were bending toward one direction. Insects moved in circles, as if controlled by unseen energy. And the ground sometimes produced a soft heartbeat-like thump that only sensitive ears could hear. The boy returned to the forest again, but this time he felt something pulling him, like an invisible force guiding his steps. And when he reached the old stones, they were glowing slightly, stronger than before. The boy touched one of the glowing marks without thinking, and suddenly he saw a flash of the warriors passed inside his mind. A huge battlefield with fire, broken planets, and spaceships crashing like falling stars, and in the center stood the same powerful warrior covered in unknown armor, with light shining from his body, fighting alone against thousands of alien creatures. The boy fell back in fear, but he could not stop watching the vision until it vanished by itself, leaving him shocked and breathless. He tried to run home, but his legs felt weak, and his heart was beating so fast that he thought it would explode. And when he finally reached home, he locked his door and sat in silence, realizing he was somehow connected to the hidden warrior. Meanwhile, around the world, people continued to witness strange events. Electronic devices randomly displayed unknown symbols. Some people heard soft whispers at night, and several drones flying near forest zones fell down without any technical damage, as if something rejected their presence. In the deepest military space research center, scientists detected a mysterious energy signal rising from Earth's underground layer, and they traced it to the same forest area. But when they tried to send a probe underground using drilling robots, the robots shut down like their systems were completely erased. One scientist whispered nervously, "This is not technology we understand." Another replied with fear, "Then what is under there?" But there was no answer. At the same time, far away in space, the alien drones that were secretly watching Earth recorded a strong pulse from the chamber, and this time the symbol on their display turned from red to bright white, meaning the awakening stage had increased. In the Galactic Council Fortress, alarm started again, and the Supreme Head declared, "The chamber is opening. We must prepare." Back on Earth, the hidden chamber gave one strong violent tremor, causing the ground to crack a little above it, and faint blue light leaked through the cracks, proving that the eternal defender inside was no longer fully asleep. He was beginning to return, and the world had no idea that the most powerful being in human history was about to rise once again. Deep under the ancient forest, the hidden metallic chamber that had slept for thousands of years began to awaken like a giant machine remembering its purpose, and each second the vibration grew stronger, causing small stones to fall, iron plates to shift, and blue ancient symbols to glow brighter than ever before, filling the sealed darkness with a cold, otherworldly light. Inside the center of the chamber, the Eternal Defender lay motionless on a floating metallic bed, his armor cracked but still shining faintly, his body preserved without any sign of aging, and his eyes closed as if he was still lost in dreams of endless battles. Suddenly, the ancient machines began scanning his body, releasing thin beams of blue light that circled around him like scanning lines, checking every cell, every bone, and every trace of power inside him. Sparks appeared around the chamber as old wires woke up with flickering energy, and the cold metal floor began to shift into new shapes, revealing hidden runes that had been locked since the day he was sealed. His fingers twitched again, this time stronger, and a wave of energy shot through the chamber, causing the glowing symbols to shift from blue to deep golden yellow, a color that represented life returning. A soft but powerful heartbeat echoed inside, slow at first, then stronger, matching the chamber's growing light, and the sound was not human or machine. It was something far older, like thunder trapped inside metal. His eyelids shook as flashes of old memories forced themselves into his half-sleeping mind. Burning planets, giant shadow creatures, space battles filled with screams, and the moment he stood alone with a glowing spear formed from pure energy. He remembered his last battle, his victory, his exhaustion, and then betrayal from the very leaders he fought to protect, and in the memory he felt a cold injection that forced his eternal sleep. The chamber reacted to his emotional rise and began releasing thick mist-like vapor from hidden vents, cooling the air as it prepared for full release. Outside, the forest ground cracked again, but this time birds stopped flying and animals ran far away, as if nature itself knew something unstoppable was rising. The boy who had been seeing visions suddenly woke up from his sleep, breathing heavily, his heart racing like he heard the heartbeat of the warrior inside the ground, and he whispered unknowingly, "He is waking up." Back inside, the defender's eyes finally opened, not like normal awakening, but as if they were activated by power, glowing with a bright white fire, sharp and emotionless, filled with confusion and ancient rage. He slowly sat up, and the metallic bed lowered back into the ground, revealing his physical strength and heavy aura that could be felt even without movement. He looked around, trying to understand where he was, and his first words echoed through the chamber in a cold, deep voice. "How long have I slept?" But the chamber responded in a mechanical language he only partly understood, telling him that thousands of years had passed. His face changed from confusion to serious calm, and he clenched his fists tightly, remembering not only betrayal, but also his promise to protect Earth no matter what. Suddenly, the large metallic door of the chamber began to open slowly, with a roaring metallic sound, sending dust and blue sparks everywhere, and a long pathway of floating stones lit up, guiding him toward the exit. When he took his first step, the ground shook in the forest above, causing birds to scream and run, while several hidden alien drones watching from orbit detected an extreme power surge and sent emergency signals back to the Galactic Council. The defender stopped walking for a moment and looked at his own hands, still covered in ancient glowing marks, and whispered, "Why am I awake now? What danger has returned?" His eyes showed a mixture of warning and destiny, as if he already knew that the universe would not allow him peace unless the next great threat was near. As he walked through the long tunnel, every ancient torch lit automatically, recognizing their master, and when he finally reached the exit, he saw the first small crack of daylight breaking through the soil. He stood silently, taking his first breath of real air in ages, and his voice echoed like thunder trapped inside Earth. "The world will remember me again." The chamber sealed itself behind him, disappearing into darkness, leaving him standing alone with unknown future steps. And at that exact moment, across galaxies, alien leaders felt the energy signature and whispered in terror, "He has awakened." As the Eternal Defender stepped out from the underground exit, his body rose slowly through the cracked forest soil, and he emerged into open air for the first time in thousands of years, standing silently under the sky, his glowing eyes dimming slightly as he tried to adjust to the world that had changed beyond anything he remembered, and the cold wind touched his face like a forgotten friend, while fresh air filled his lungs. with a sharp reminder that he was no longer locked away. He looked around, observing the tall trees, the strange new smell of polluted air, and the distant lights of a world filled with technology he did not recognize, and he whispered softly, "Earth has changed, but does it still deserve protection?" His ancient armor flickered with weak blue light, and then slowly turned into a darker form, adapting to the environment, showing that it was alive like a second skin that reacted to danger and energy. He took his first steps forward, but each footstep made the ground vibrate slightly as if the earth still remembered him and responded to his presence. Birds flew away from the trees in fear, and the entire forest suddenly fell silent, like all living creatures bowed to the power that had returned. Meanwhile, in the distance, the young boy who was sleeping in his small house felt a strong shock inside his mind, and he woke up with a loud gasp, sweating and shaking, because he suddenly saw a clear vision of the exact forest location where the warrior now stood. Something inside him told him, "Go there now." And without thinking, he grabbed his jacket and flashlight and left his house quietly even though it was still night. At the same time, the alien surveillance drones hidden in the clouds finally captured a full visual of the Eternal Defender, and the moment the data reached the Galactic Council, panic spread like a virus. The Supreme Head slammed his glowing staff to the floor and shouted, "He has reached the surface. This is not training. This is not an illusion. This is real awakening." All alien leaders immediately began preparing emergency ships and weapon shields, although they knew none of their strongest weapons could fully defeat him. Back on Earth, the Defender walked further through the forest, touching the leaves and feeling sadness that nature looked weaker than before, and he whispered, "Humans forgot how to protect their home." Suddenly, he sensed movement and turned instantly, his eyes glowing white for a split second, ready to attack. But instead of an enemy, he saw the young boy standing in shock, staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. The boy could not move for a moment because he felt like he was standing in front of a living storm, a powerful godlike warrior whose presence alone made his knees tremble. But the Defender did not attack him, and instead asked in a calm, deep voice, "How did you find me?" The boy replied in a shaking voice, "I don't know. I just felt like someone called me." The Defender stepped closer and placed his hand near the boy's head without touching, and suddenly he felt a hidden connection, a link that should not exist, and he whispered, "You saw my dreams. That means your mind is connected to my energy." The boy looked confused and asked, "Are you a human?" And the Defender paused, then replied, "Yes and no. I was born here, but I was shaped by something not from this world." The air grew colder as strange clouds began forming above, and both of them looked up as they saw tiny silver lights falling slowly like stars. But those were not stars. They were alien stealth drones arriving to observe more closely. The Defender clenched his fist and said, "They already know I am awake," then looked at the boy and ordered firmly, "Go home. Forget you saw me." But the boy refused and shouted, "No, I want answers. Why am I seeing your memories?" The Defender paused again, realizing the boy might be important for something unknown, and instead of disappearing, he said, "Then follow me, but do not speak unless I allow it." With that, he raised his hand toward the sky, and a silent shockwave blasted outward, destroying all nearby alien drones in one invisible strike, their pieces falling like metallic snow. In space, alarm screamed again as the Council received last-second signals showing the Defender was active, aware, and extremely dangerous. On Earth, the forest lights dimmed, and the Defender looked toward the horizon with serious eyes and whispered, "War has started before I even learned the truth." The Eternal Defender and the young boy walked deeper into the dark side of the forest, where no human had stepped for many years, and the moonlight barely touched the ground, as if even the sky was afraid to shine on the path chosen by destiny. And the boy remained silent because he could feel the heavy energy around the warrior, like a storm hidden inside calm wind. The Defender did not speak for a long time. He only walked with focused eyes, thinking about the memories that were slowly returning to him, like broken glass pieces forming a painful picture. And finally, he stopped near an old tree that looked older than any other tree in the forest and placed his hand on its bark, releasing a soft pulse of golden energy that revealed ancient carvings under the surface. carvings that told parts of his forgotten story. And he whispered, "This was once a sacred place where I trained to unlock my power before betrayal turned it into a grave of silence." The boy looked confused and scared, but he gathered courage and asked slowly, "Who betrayed you?" The defender closed his eyes and breathed heavily, like he was holding a storm inside his heart. And then he said, "The same people I protected, the same leaders who feared what I could become. They sealed me instead of trusting me." His voice did not sound angry, but it carried a deep sadness that even the wind slowed down to listen, and the boy felt sympathy even though he did not understand the full truth. The defender continued speaking slowly. "I fought for humans, not because they were strong, but because they were innocent and full of potential. But power creates fear, and fear creates betrayal." He turned away from the tree and looked directly into the boy's eyes, and for the first time something like sorrow appeared in his glowing gaze, and he asked, "Tell me, human child, do humans still fear what they do not understand?" The boy hesitated but finally answered, "Yes, fear is still everywhere, even the things we don't understand. We try to control or destroy." The defender nodded slowly as if he already knew, and then remembered something important and placed his hand above the boy's head, scanning his mind with energy. And he saw flashes of images showing how the boy saw his dreams, visions of the chamber, and floating symbols. And then he saw something shocking. A tiny piece of the defender's ancient power was inside the boy's mind, like a small spark waiting to grow. He stepped back in surprise and whispered, "How can this be? My power cannot pass to anyone unless it was chosen by destiny." The boy panicked and asked, "Am I going to die?" But the defender shook his head and replied, "No, but your future is no longer normal. You carry a key that I must unlock." Before the boy could ask anything, the sky suddenly flickered with a strange blue glow, and unknown symbols appeared inside the clouds, symbols that only the defender could read, and his face turned serious as he whispered, "They are coming not just to watch, but to erase everything." The boy looked up but saw nothing except what looked like glowing thunder without sound, and he asked, "Who is coming?" The defender responded with a low voice, "The same alien forces that once tried to conquer Earth. They waited for my sleep, but now they believe humans are weak and unprotected." The wind turned sharp like blades, and tree leaves shook violently even without storms, and the boy stepped behind the defender in fear, feeling that the entire forest was reacting to a force approaching from a sky. The defender suddenly kneeled, placing his hand on the soil, and ancient runes spread through the ground like glowing roots, connecting to deep hidden energy that he once controlled during ancient battles, and he whispered, "I will not allow Earth to fall again, even if humans forgot me." His armor began to transform again, changing shape into a stronger battle form, with glowing lines like molten metal running across his arms and chest, and his eyes turned brighter, ready for the next phase. He stood up slowly and looked into the sky with strong determination, then said to the boy, "You must stay hidden and watch, because your role will come later." The boy tried to argue, but the defender raised his hand gently and said, "Do not fear. I do not fight for myself. I fight for all life that cannot defend itself." At that moment, far above in space, alien warships activated invisibility mode and prepared for silent entry into Earth's atmosphere, believing that destroying humanity before the defender regained full power was the only safe option. But they did not know that they were already too late, because the warrior who shaped the destiny of galaxies was awake, aware, and ready for the war he never asked for but was born to face. Draven stood near the large transparent window of the command deck, watching the stars rush past as the ship traveled at faster-than-light speed toward the hidden star system where the Phantom Legion base was located. His face was calm, but inside his mind storms were rising. He knew his return was not only a threat to the aliens, but also a warning to the universe that Earth was no longer silent. Captain Arya watched him carefully from behind, sensing that Draven was hiding something deeper than fear, something personal. She understood that every great warrior carried a wound that no one could see. Draven told her that the Phantom Legion was not only powerful, but also ancient and ruthless. They believed emotions were weaknesses, mercy was a disease, and unity was a lie. Their goal was simple: erase free will from a universe, and control every world with cold iron order. Arya asked Draven how he even survived them. Draven kept silent for a moment, then finally spoke. I survived not because I was strong, but because I was forgotten. His voice carried a strange bitterness, like a sharp knife hidden behind soft words. Nova, the AI system, projected a hologram showing the Phantom Legion fleet positions around the target star system. The fleet looked like a giant metal storm waiting in space. Arya felt fear, but she tried to stay strong. Draven studied the map with steady eyes and gave silent instructions. He did not show fear, but the crew could feel that something was different in him. It felt like he was preparing not only for battle, but also for something personal. Suddenly an alert sounded. Enemy scout ships were detected nearby. They were not attacking yet, but watching, scanning, analyzing. Arya quickly ordered shield activations and silent mode, but Draven held her hand gently and whispered, "No. They already know we are here." The crew froze, realizing this was not a normal mission anymore. Nova warned that the scout ships were sending encrypted signals, possibly calling the main fleet. Draven walked toward the armory without a single word. Arya followed him, demanding answers. He explained that the Phantom Legion did not fight like normal armies. They liked psychological warfare. They created fear first, confusion second, and destruction last. They wanted their enemies to break inside before breaking outside. Arya asked him what scared him the most. Draven stopped walking, looked deep into her eyes, and replied, "They never forget those who escape." He then revealed something he had not told anyone. He was not captured by accident. He was chosen. The Phantom Legion wanted his DNA because he was different. His body could adapt fast, heal fast, and resist control signals. They planned to create an unstoppable hybrid army using his genetics. That was why they experimented on him, why they kept him alive. He escaped only because an old scientist in the Legion secretly helped him. That scientist believed that the universe needed free will, even if it cost his own life. Arya felt both shock and respect. She asked if the Legion had samples of him left. Draven answered slowly, "Yes, and if they succeed, they will create soldiers stronger than me, but without heart, without freedom, without mercy." The room fell silent. Nova then revealed new data. The encrypted message sent by the scouts contained one clear line repeated over and over: "Return the prototype." The crew looked at Draven in fear. He was not only a target, he was the key to their plans. Draven clenched his fists and whispered, "They are not afraid of me. They are afraid of what I might become if I fight for Earth." With that, he prepared to go to the lower deck training chamber where advanced combat simulations were running. Arya grabbed his arm and said, "You are no longer alone. We fight together." Draven slowly nodded, but deep inside he was unsure if the future would demand teamwork or sacrifice. As the ship continued silently through the Dark Star route, a strange energy wave passed near them like a ghost signal. Nova detected unknown codes inside it. Arya asked where it came from. Nova answered, "It is not from the Legion. It is from an unknown source." Draven turned slowly, his eyes narrowing. If it was not from the Legion, then there was another force watching them, possibly older and even more powerful. The silent storm had just grown bigger, and none of them knew if they would survive its arrival. The strange energy signal continued to pulse around the ship like an invisible heartbeat, but no one could understand what it truly wanted. Draven stood in silence, staring at the main holographic screen, while Nova attempted to decode the layered message. The crew members inside the command deck whispered anxiously, as if speaking too loudly would attract unseen danger. Captain Arya tried to calm everyone, but even she felt a growing weight inside her chest. Suddenly, Nova's voice echoed across the room in a low and glitching tone. "Decoding complete. Message identified, not hostile but urgent." A distorted holographic figure formed in front of them, but it was not human, not alien, not digital. It was a shimmering silhouette of pure light shaped like ancient armor. The figure spoke in a deep, slow voice. "Warchild, survivor of the Iron Prison, you are not ready." Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Draven stepped forward carefully and demanded to know who or what the being was. The figure replied, We are the Celestial Wardens, watchers of universal balance, creators of time seals, guardians of hidden truths. No one had ever heard of such a group, not even in secret intergalactic archives. Arya asked why they contacted Draven specifically. The being slowly turned its glowing head toward her and said, "This human holds the key to destruction or salvation. His blood is a weapon. His mind is a battlefield. His heart is the final decision." Draven clenched his jaw, tired of being treated like a tool or experiment. He demanded answers. The figure hesitated before revealing the truth. "You were not chosen by accident. Your DNA was not rare by chance. You are part of an ancient experiment carried out long before Earth was discovered by other species. Your bloodline is linked to forgotten super soldiers created by us, the Wardens. But the project was abandoned because it was too dangerous. Your abilities are not evolution, they are legacy." The room froze. Draven felt like his entire existence cracked. He asked why no one told Earth. The figure answered, "Because Earth had to grow naturally. If Earth learned too early, it would rely on power, not wisdom." Nova analyzed the energy readings and confirmed that the message source was not fabricated and contained ancient molecular signatures older than any known star map. Arya asked what the Wardens wanted now. The glowing being spoke slowly. "We see the future paths. If you fall into the hands of the Phantom Legion again, the universe will bow under their iron rule. If you lose yourself to rage, you will become worse than them. To win, you must understand the power inside you. Do not run from what you are. Control it." Draven looked down, confused and angry. He admitted he did not want this power. He only wanted to protect Earth. The Warden replied, "A hero is not chosen by desire. A hero is chosen by need." Suddenly, alarms exploded throughout the ship. Nova detected a massive incoming fleet approaching fast. The holographic Warden looked up as if sensing the threat and said, "The storm has arrived sooner than expected. Remember this. Power without purpose is destruction." The image faded instantly. Arya ordered the ship into battle formation, but Nova warned that the enemy fleet was far larger than predicted. The Phantom Legion did not send scouts anymore. They sent an entire war armada. Ships shaped like black metallic wings filled the radar screen, their formation tight, silent, merciless. Draven felt something awakening inside him, something raw, powerful, and ancient. His heartbeat became heavier, and he could feel energy rising under his skin like burning electricity. Arya grabbed his shoulder and demanded he stay focused. Draven nodded, but his eyes were glowing faintly with a strange silver light. The battlefield outside turned into chaos as Legion ships surrounded them in a circular trap. Nova announced that escape routes were blocked and enemy boarding pods were launching. Arya ordered all soldiers to prepare while the ship shook from impact. Draven slowly walked to the center of the deck, closed his eyes, and tried to calm the storm inside him. His voice was low but determined. "I will not be controlled by fate, by fear, or by them." The ship doors trembled as enemy forces attempted to break in. Arya unsheathed her plasma blade. Nova activated internal defense turrets, and crew members readied their weapons. Draven opened his eyes again, and the silver glow was stronger, like a hidden fire finally waking up. He whispered, "Let them come." The next second, the first explosion shook the hulls. Metal crashed, alarms screamed, and enemy shadows stormed into the ship like demons from darkness. The real war had finally begun, and Draven knew the next choice would decide not only his future but the future of Earth and every free world in the galaxy. The Eternal Defender stood at the center of the ship's command deck, his eyes glowing brighter than ever, and every movement he made seemed to pulse with energy, as if the air itself recognized the power returning to life. While outside the massive viewport, the Phantom Legion fleet descended like a dark storm across the stars, hundreds of black ships with sharp edges and glowing red cores forming a circle around the earthbound ship, preparing for total annihilation. The alarms screamed and warning lights flashed, but Draven did not panic. He only felt the raw heat of battle rising inside him, reminding him of every fight he had endured, every enemy he had defeated, and every world he had protected before being forced into eternal sleep. Captain Arya shouted orders, and the crew moved quickly, activating shields, preparing weapons, and locking down all sensitive systems. But they could feel that nothing they did would truly stop the incoming Legion, because Draven's awakening had changed everything. He raised his hand slowly, and a wave of pure energy spread from him, knocking the nearest boarding pods into pieces, crushing metal and throwing shadows across the walls. The crew stared in awe and fear as the ship vibrated with power that could rival entire planetary engines, and Nova, the AI, announced in trembling voice, "Energy levels rising beyond any known threshold, external threat neutralized for now." But the victory was brief because Legion ships outside adjusted their formation, sending massive plasma beams slicing through space toward them, and Draven lifted his hand again, forming a protective field that absorbed and reflected the energy back toward the enemy ships, causing the first explosions of the battle. Smoke and debris filled the command deck, alarms continued screaming, and yet Draven remained calm, moving as if connected to the universe itself, every step precise, every gesture full of silent authority. He could feel the Legion soldiers approaching through telepathy, probing his mind, trying to sense fear or weakness, but he blocked them with ancient power, energy flowing through his veins like a river of molten stars. Arya watched him, realizing that Draven was no ordinary warrior. He was an embodiment of force and will, a living legend standing at the center of chaos. She tried to communicate with him, but he only shook his head, eyes focused on the largest ship in the fleet, the Legion flagship, which glowed ominously at the edge of space, like a predator waiting to strike. Draven knew that the fight would not be simple. They would bring reinforcements, deploy secret weapons, and attempt psychological attacks to weaken him before destroying the planet. But he also knew that he could not let fear or hesitation control him anymore. He lifted both hands, and from his palms, energy beams shot outward like pillars of fire and lightning, piercing enemy ships, tearing through metal, and causing massive chain reactions that sent smaller vessels spinning into debris fields. The crew screamed in amazement and fear as they watched their captain's calm warrior transform into a storm incarnate, and Arya realized that she was witnessing history, a force that had been erased from human memory, now rewriting reality with sheer presence. Suddenly, an alien boarding pod broke through the outer shield and landed on the deck, soldiers ready to attack, but Draven moved forward, his feet barely touching the ground, and struck them with a force that sent shockwaves across the room, throwing multiple enemies into walls with a single motion. The air seemed to hum with energy as each strike released pulses that shook the entire ship, and even the Phantom Legion outside felt the impact, their massive vessels tilting in response. Nova's system started struggling to contain the energy flooding the ship, but Draven ignored it, focusing only on the battle, his mind seeing strategies and moves in advance, calculating and predicting outcomes faster than any human or alien technology could measure. The Legion attempted to regroup, firing synchronized energy beams at the ship, but Draven extended his arms, and a radiant sphere of light expanded outward, neutralizing the beams before they could touch anything vital. He whispered softly to himself, almost like a prayer, "I will not fail. Earth will survive no matter what." Each word carried weight, and the young boy who had been watching from the hidden observation chamber felt it resonate inside his own heart, a connection forming between protector and witness, a bond that would shape the future. The battle escalated further when the Legion flagship moved closer, releasing waves of psychic interference trying to confuse him, distort his senses, and attack his mind directly. But Draven's eyes glowed even brighter, and he projected a mental shield so strong that the psychic waves shattered against it like glass. With a deep roar, he focused all the energy inside him, gathering it into a massive orb that hovered above his hands, glowing with white and gold light, a combination of raw power and ancient discipline. With one throw, the orb shot straight through the enemy fleet like a comet of destruction, obliterating dozens of ships instantly, their remnants scattering across space, and even the largest vessels were thrown into chaos, unable to maintain formation. Arya and the crew watched silently, realizing that this battle was more than a fight for survival. It was a declaration of existence, a proof that one forgotten human could challenge a galaxy, and that history itself could be rewritten with courage and power. Draven stood at the center, breathing steadily, his eyes now calm but full of warning, and he knew this was only the beginning. The Legion would not stop, but neither would he, and in the heart of the command deck, surrounded by chaos, fire, and destruction, he whispered softly, "Bring your armies. I am ready." The battlefield was silent for a brief moment, but the silence was heavier than the loudest war cries, as if the universe itself was holding its breath to watch the final movements of the Eternal Defender, standing tall amid the ruins of the shattered Phantom Legion fleet, his armor glowing faintly under the light of distant stars, his eyes calm but alert, scanning every direction for the next threat. Smoke and debris floated around the damaged ship, warning lights flickered, and the young boy watched from a hidden place, feeling the weight of history in that moment, knowing that the man before him was not just a protector, but a living legend whose very existence commanded respect and fear. Draven lowered his hand slightly, the energy that had surged through him earlier still radiating like heat waves across the floor, and he took a slow breath, listening to the faint sounds of damaged machinery, the creaking metal, and the soft hum of the planet below, which now seemed alive with quiet hope. He remembered the faces of those he had protected before his long sleep, the betrayal that had cost him years of life, and the promise he had made to Earth long ago, a promise to fight until no harm could reach it. Outside, the few remaining Legion ships tried to regroup, but their coordination was gone, their morale broken by the power of one human who had returned from myth, and every move they made was met with precise counteraction, not reckless force, but the calm certainty of someone who had mastered war and peace alike. Arya approached him carefully, her voice trembling slightly but steady. "Is it over?" Draven looked at her, his glowing eyes softening just a fraction. "Not yet, but Earth is safe for now. The rest depends on them and the choices we make next." The boy stepped forward from his hiding place, looking at Draven with wide eyes. "Will they come back?" Draven nodded slowly. "Yes, there are always more who seek power, more who will challenge what is right. That is why I remain, even when humans forget." The young boy felt a shiver down his spine, but also a strange warmth, a sense of protection, knowing that someone who had survived betrayal, time, and the entire galaxy's fear was still standing between them and the darkness. Far above Earth, alien fleets from distant corners of the galaxy that had been observing the battle began withdrawing cautiously, some sending messages to warn their leaders, others retreating silently, all aware that the balance had changed, and the name of the Eternal Defender would be remembered, feared, and whispered for generations across stars. Draven turned his gaze toward the horizon, where faint clouds moved over forests and cities, knowing that humanity was still unaware of the true threats that lurked beyond their skies, and that one day, perhaps sooner than they imagined, they would need him again. The boy asked quietly, "Will you stay on Earth?" Draven's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the distant moonlight. "No, I cannot stay. I must watch, prepare, and intervene only when necessary. Humanity must learn to protect itself, but they will never be truly alone while I live." Arya, still standing near him, felt the weight of his words, realizing that their battles were far from over, and that what they had just witnessed was only the beginning of a new era, where one human could change the fate of entire galaxies. Suddenly, a strange vibration ran through the ground, subtle but undeniable, and the energy sensors on the ship detected a faint, irregular signal, something unlike anything measured before, a presence powerful but hidden, ancient yet awake, and Draven felt it deep within his core, his body reacting instinctively. He whispered with a calm but warning tone, "This is not the end. Something greater has already begun to stir." The boy looked at him with fear and curiosity. "What is it?" Draven remained silent, watching the horizon where the sky met the forests, knowing that whatever it was, it would challenge not only Earth, but the very laws of the universe, and that his role as the protector would be needed more than ever. Around them, the stars shone quietly, the wreckage of the Phantom Legion floating in orbit, and the silence of the galaxy returned. But this time it was different, alive with tension, charged with energy, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. Draven placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, connecting him to the lingering energy that had survived the battle. "Prepare yourself. One day, you may need to see what I see, to understand what I must do." The boy nodded, feeling the heavy responsibility, but also an unspoken pride, knowing that the man before him was the shield humanity had forgotten, and that he had survived time, betrayal, and the fear of the entire galaxy. Draven took one last look at the forest, at the distant cities, and at the faint lights flickering across Earth, and then turned slowly, walking back toward the hidden pathways, back toward the shadows where only he could exist unseen, silent but ready, watching over a world that would never truly know the full story of the Eternal Defender. And far above, across distant systems, alien scouts reported the presence of something stirring in the edges of the galaxy, something darker and older than the Phantom Legion, a shadow that had waited patiently for centuries, and the final whisper of Draven's voice echoed through the mind of the boy. "Rest for now, but the real war has yet to begin." The galaxy was quiet again, but it would not remain so for long, and the legend of the forgotten protector of Earth had only just begun.